Alrighty. So thanks again, Holly, for taking the time to be here. Likewise for you, CJ and Jared. So CJ is the Elder Scrolls Online art director. Jared is the art director at ZeniMax Online Studios. Both lots of experience working on the game. And you guys will be speaking with Holly from Gaming Trend. Yeah, Holly, the time is yours. So feel free to take it away.
Awesome. It's great to meet you both. I wasn't entirely sure if this was going to be like a Q&A type interview because the email that you guys sent out was more of like maybe you had a presentation, but I've got some questions ready if you'd like questions, or if you guys had some stuff you wanted to talk about, we can do that too. Either way.
My understanding was Q&A, so yep.
Okay. All right. So I guess the first question is, how long have both of you guys been on board with the Elder Scrolls world as a whole? Has it only been ESO, or did you work on any of the previous Elder Scrolls games?
Um, I did not work on the single player games, so I've only worked on Elder Scrolls Online. But I started in 2009, so I've been working with the Elder Scrolls IP for almost 12 years.
I have worked with ZOS for 8 years now, and all that time was on Elder Scrolls Online. So that's the sum total of my Elder Scrolls dev experience. I was previously a co-art director in Dark Age of Camelot in many years ago. So my it's not my first time being in the MMO space, but it was my first time coming into Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, so I was actually doing a little digging on you guys on your backgrounds, and I was like, I guess not shocked, but like, wow, DAOC, because I played that back in the day. I know this is about Elder Scrolls, but that's just really cool. Was there anything that kind of learned that you brought with you over to work on Elder Scrolls from DAOC that might have helped? Or I'm kind of just wanting to figure out where you guys get your ideas and inspirations to like come up with a concept and take it all the way to a finished product. So, I mean, DAOC and Elder Scrolls are both high fantasy, and having worked on now two games like that seems that's awesome.
Elder Scrolls is much different from my perspective than Dayak was, because Dark Age of Camelot we were all a bunch of 22-year-old kids who were just kind of fumbling our way into this emerging MMO space. Elder Scrolls is a much deeper, more realistically based world. Years and years and years of lore and storytelling already behind it before I was even a part of it. So it feels very different than my early days working on MMOs.
Right, right.
I will add to that, though, that the core team, some of the founding members of the team at ZOS, we're all on DAOC, and so if you look at the PvP system and some of those fundamental systems, grew out of that experience with that earlier title. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually just reinstalled EverQuest 1 and DAOC like last month just to be like, hey, let's take a trip down nostalgia lane. And you really see it when you go back to that, to like what we have now in modern MMOs. It's just like so much progress. But I have great memories. Yeah, so again, so if you guys could kind of just tell me some of your real life inspirations, like what do you reach for when coming up with a totally fictional race such as the Argonians? How do you go about designing their entire look, from their clothing to the cities they live in and the creatures that inhabit the zone? I've talked to a couple different people on the team, and it's just so interesting to me to get all of your perspectives and how it all comes together to get a finished product. So if you could just go over maybe some of the things that you guys sit down and look at that inspire you to start designing a totally fictional race.
Well, I'll start, and then CJ can uh, jump in a sec. So, we get asked kind of this question a lot, which is, style and how we develop the Elder Scrolls look and the Elder Scrolls world for ESO, and we look at a lot of real world reference, we try to make the world as grounded and as realistic as possible. I mean, obviously it's an MMO and you know there are some fidelity limitations and things like that. But in terms of our approach, we really approach it as realistically as we can. You know, considering also the fantasy elements. But I'd like to give you a couple of examples. So if you play the Thieves Guild content and if you're familiar with Abaz Landing, there's definitely a Middle Eastern vibe to that area. And when we were designing that stuff, some of the reference that I was looking at was I was looking at old kind of Assyrian sculptural references and bas relief. And kind of what we do is we take the lore, we take the mythology, we take the stories, and then we try to then sort of take the real world reference and put it through that lens. So we would never take a 1-for-1 sort of Assyrian bas relief sculpture, but we might take a mythological creature and create it using those same sort of stylistic techniques, right? So kind of a flat bas relief, carving, sculptural carving of those mythological creatures, so that it feels relatable, it feels grounded, it feels like a real world thing, even though it's fictional, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the kind of stuff that I was wondering about. Do you guys actually go out and into the real world and take pictures or visit locations in person, or is it more of just like brainstorming in the office and looking at locations online?
I have been trying to get Joe to give me a budget to personally take around the world, but it hasn't worked yet.
Right?
We tend to do most of our research, from our desks, so to speak, or from our homes lately. But it's a lot of exploring around. The sort of the artistic creativity that you can find right here on Earth is so expansive and so amazing that it always forms a better place to start, to find a culture or to find a region or an area of the world and start to look at the architecture there, the geography there, what the cultural art that has emerged from that place. And if you start from that sort of realistic place, from an actual location in the world, and then you start to layer on those fantasy elements and layer on all the Elder Scrolls lore, it always feels more grounded and it always feels more like Elder Scrolls, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. And I've mentioned this a couple of times when talking to Rich and then Brad yesterday. Like, you guys do, in my opinion, unbiased opinion, is you guys have nailed immersion. Like, you feel like you are actually, in the zone that you're supposed to be in. It's either peaceful or it's ominous or, the waterfalls, everything you guys do, it brings total immersion and it's fabulous.
And that's a credit to a lot of really, really talented artists across many teams who work very hard to try to get that storytelling in place and get those environments as immersive and as beautiful as they can be. It's a team that works very hard to get that, so it's gratifying to hear.
No, I mean,
Yeah, thank you.
absolutely.
That's nice.
Absolutely. I mean, like, I've played just about every MMO out there. Like, I've started with Dark Age of Camelot and EverQuest 1, and I've tried just about everything. The only two that I've ever stuck with was World of Warcraft, which I've completely given up on after 16 years, and ESO. And ESO is the only game, even over World of Warcraft. I know it's like the competitor, and I shouldn't be talking about it, but you guys, everything just feels real and enjoyable and, again, beautiful. And you guys, there's no competition in my eyes between them and you guys.
Thank you.
Well, I will certainly pass that compliment on to the team. And like CJ was saying, we have a really dedicated group of people, and we have artists who have been on staff for a really long time. And we all really care about the game that we're making.
And that shows too. I was kind of fangirling yesterday talking to Brad for the first time. I have been such a huge fan of the soundtracks from Elder Scrolls Online. I listen to them all the time. Like, I wasn't even joking. Like, I have my playlist I listen to when I'm writing and all that kind of stuff. And I was just blown away at how you guys just put all of these pieces together, and you go above and beyond, and it absolutely shows. I mean, it absolutely, you you feel so immersed. I don't know other words to explain it, but you guys nailed it. There's no competition.
It's the way I like to think about it is that it's more than the sum of its parts.
Yeah. And you can tell that you guys put in the extra mile to get the product. And when he was explaining, how he takes the early concepts and then goes all the way to get, and he was saying it's like a year to 15 months to get the soundtracks out the door, that was like, wow. I mean, and you can tell, and he really puts the time and effort in, and you guys really put the time and effort in, go the extra mile, and it definitely shows. So admittedly, I did not have a ton of questions prepared because I wasn't exactly sure what kind of interview this was going to be. You had mentioned a little bit about console enhanced in the email. So are you guys just kind of boosting up the graphics and making everything look a little bit better for console? Is that what console enhanced is going to be?
Pretty much. It's the effort with console enhanced is, if you play on a powerful PC, you can really get the most out of the the visuals and the technology that's already there in our engine and in our client. But with the new consoles coming out, all that extra power and those extra visual bells and whistles can now be fully realized in ESO on console. So our effort was really just to try to get as much out of the new consoles as we could, so that people playing on console can really play Elder Scrolls Online, in the way it should be played, with all of those settings turned up as far as they can go, so you can really, get that atmosphere and get the beauty of the.
A little bit. So I'm not sure. Maybe been about a month and a half ago when you guys let us get the hands-on preview of Blackwood, and I was walking through the zone, and I was just exploring, and some parts of it had obviously not been touched yet by the art team. But could you maybe just go over some of the inspirations, real life inspirations? Again, like, were there any particular like areas of the world or the country that you guys reached to design Blackwood? Because there were just areas that were just gorgeous with the wildflowers and the waterfalls, and like it feels like Elder Scrolls, but it looks new and pretty and peaceful. And so yeah, just anything that you can throw at me about Blackwood and your experiences with that.
Sure. From my perspective, I mean, we were really playing off an interesting idea um, of being able to explore a zone that's really the transition between Cyrodiil and Murkmire, and so we were kind of leveraging off of like what we had done already in those two. I don't know, Jared. Do you know where the real world geographical inspirations for Cyrodiil were?
Well, for Cyrodiil, I mean, we really looked at Oblivion first, and we actually took the height map from Oblivion and we pulled it into the engine, and then that's where we started from. And different regions, we use different references for different regions of Cyrodiil, but we were mostly just trying to be faithful to the Oblivion map as much as we could for to support PvP gameplay, sightlines, and sort of balancing the environment with the total number of characters that we have to render on screen.
So the main inspirations were some of the deciduous forests that you might find in Europe or even in England. And then the swamps, of course, were more directly inspired from wherever you're going to find swamps around the world. They're really the fun thing about that is that we've got this interesting sort of Mayan bent on the Argonian cultures, and so you get to play with those those ziggurats and that really amazing Mayan architecture and translating that into the Argonian culture, and then you get to kind of merge that with this classic medieval early Dark Ages aesthetic of the Breton buildings and what we were going to make Leowin look like, which was all in that aesthetic too, and getting to merge those together in a zone that was literally merging together from Murkmire to Cyrodiil was kind of our take on it.
Right, yeah, and I mean, again, I don't think it was fully completed when we got a peek at it, but the parts that I did see are exactly like you explained, and it all comes together, and it's fantastic. I'm excited to see the finished product. Like, we've only got a couple days to wait.
Our guys really take a lot of time to not only consider the individual assets, the trees and the ground clutter and all that kind of stuff, but really think about the geography and think about like how's the water going to flow? Like, does it make sense to have a lake here? Where's the water from this lake coming from? They really do make an effort to try to make it look like this could be a real place in a real world, and the pathways that you're walking make sense because those are the pathways that would naturally, kind of evolve out of the geography and stuff like that.
Right. No, and it's funny that you mentioned that. So I was out with my mom last night. My mom's 74 and she plays ESO and she just hit 50 on her first character. And I was telling
My
her,
mom to play ESO.
she's awesome. I'm super excited that she hit 50 and we can finally start doing some fun stuff. But I was telling her yesterday about like how realistic the water in ESO feels, and I was, trying to come up with some questions to ask for you guys, and she just kept going on and on about how beautiful the water is. And you might not think that a lot of people look at those small things, but it's something that I've always noticed and appreciated, but I guess I might be weird that way. But I mean, again, you guys do such a great job with it. It looks real, and it's not just some haphazard thing that you guys plop down in the middle of nowhere and it makes no sense. The Western Skyrim was a good example of like, some of the
You want to go first, CJ?
Sure. My favorite zone. Let me go with favorite city, and this is actually one I did not work on. I was not yet art director when they did this city, but I love Orsinium. That that city, when you walk through it, that feels. Well, we were just talking about it. I mean, that feels so real to me. The way that the layout of the city goes feels like that's the way that a city that's been rebuilt over time would look like. It's one of the first things that Jared said to me when he tapped me to come on ESO was everything in the Elder Scrolls is old, and almost everything you see is probably built on top of something else. And I often travel back to Orsinium just to remind myself of that philosophy when we're doing the art. It's like that is a city that feels like it was built and rebuilt, and you can still see the effects of that, that history in the city. So that would be my choice.
My favorite zone is Morrowind, Vardenfell, and it, Morrowind was the first single player Elder Scrolls game that I played when it came out, and I fell in love with it, and being able to build it in ESO was just awesome for me to be able to participate in. So that one's dear to my heart. I also I really like Somerset, and I'm ashamed of myself because I can't think of the name of the city off the top of my head. But when we did that zone, it's a really good example of kind of getting back to your earlier questions about how we design and what we think about. And what CJ said, which is that everything in Tamriel is old, everything in the Elder Scrolls world is old, and the way I think about it is, it's civilizations built on top of civilizations. So if you're really looking at Somerset, you can see how how the history of the High Elves within the architecture itself, right? So you have kind of the contemporary architecture of the Altmer, Altmer. And you have the deeper levels in the dungeons, which the story that we come up with on the dev team is that this there was a more ancient race of high elves that built this before this civilization was here, right? So we try and tell a story or imply a story through the design of the architecture, so that it gets older the deeper you go.
Right. Is it Alinor that you're thinking of?
Alinor, that's it.
Yeah, that's my favorite place to do my crafting rig. I very much appreciate you guys taking the time to talk with us and giving us the opportunity.
Glad to.
It was a pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and thank you so much again, Holly, for taking all the time this week to speak with our awesome developers. We really appreciate it.
No, anytime. Seriously, the pleasure is all mine. I've been playing ESO since alpha. I am a huge fan. I love your game, and I will never say no to talking to anyone on your team.
It's really nice to hear hear all of the positive comments. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's heartfelt. I'm absolutely serious about it. You guys are fantastic. Keep up the great work.